Hey everyone, me Kevin here. The Problem Solvers Caucus and the bipartisan group of senators that revealed the new $908 billion two-part bill today gave us some additional details in their approximately 50-minute long press conference after they revealed the details that I provided in the live stream earlier. In this video, I have consolidated all of the details from the live stream earlier and the press conference that came after the live stream. If you want to still watch the live stream so you could see the actual summary sheets that were handed out, you can do that. But in this video, I've put it all together on a beautiful, as usual, flowchart. So let's go ahead and go through the flowchart. Quick note, after I go through this summary, I will also provide reactions from Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell at the end of the video. These are going to be very important because they give us insights into how Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell are reacting to this bipartisan package. It's also good to know that at this time, we have passed 300,000 COVID deaths in the country, and every state has received doses of the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine. Attorney General Bill Barr has also resigned and will leave his position before Christmas. Which, speaking of Christmas, take advantage of that holiday coupon code linked down below and email me for a bundle code on the courses that can help you build your wealth with stocks, real estate, and private live streams every day the market is open. All right, so here's the absolute complete set of information that we have thus far. It's a 600-page bill that is not yet released. We just have summaries of this right now. Senators mentioned that they are going to keep going tonight. Their goal is actually to try to merge these two bills again. So they literally split the bills, and now their goal is to merge them again, and they're going to try to merge them by tweaking the verbiage on state and local government funding, as well as the liability protections. We will not leave until this passes, or these two bills pass. They say this is their Christmas miracle. The unemployed section has $300 per week of unemployment as a boost for 16 weeks, and then all forms of unemployment assistance get extended for 16 weeks. The PEUA, the PEUC, all these get extended for 16 weeks. On small business, this section was actually increased from $288 billion to $300 billion, so we have about a $12 billion increase here. EIDL provisions have been included in this. EIDL grants, we're not exactly sure how much. We don't know if we can double dip into these. We don't have those details yet, but we do know that for the PPP funding, you will be able to get a PPP loan, a second draw, if your revenue has declined 30%, comparing a quarter from 2019 to 2020. Schools, $82 billion, that's been held consistent. We've got mental health and addiction, $5 billion for this. Were included in this. This was not in the first outline of this proposal. We've got $45 billion for transportation. There had previously been an allocation just specifically separated out for airlines, but it's now all lumped together as $45 billion for airlines, railroads, buses, and public transit. We've got the Healthcare Relief Fund of $35 billion, $7 billion of that going to rural areas. Nutrition and hunger, this budget was actually cut in half. I was a little bit surprised by that. We've got $13 billion for the SNAP food program, pantries, food banks. The SNAP program would provide a 15% boost for 4 months. So the SNAP program benefits would go up by about 15% for 4 months. Additional funding to food banks. We've got free meals in emergency shelters for those 25 years and younger. More food boxes to seniors and additional food aid programs. Vaccine distribution, $16 billion. This is what we expected. Childcare, $10 billion. Pandemic EBT would cover families with children in childcare. Broadband, $10 billion. The United States Postal Service, $10 billion. Would not have to be repaid. Community Lenders Act, $10 billion. And then we've got rental assistance. The eviction ban would continue through January 31st, so this would be a 1-month extension. 90% of the rental protection money, or that rental money, would have to be used for rent going forward, rent in arrears, utilities, home energy, or housing-related expenses. 10% would go to housing stability funds. So this is presumably like Section 8 or local housing authorities. There would be guardrails to ensure support for most in-need households, with a preference for households with incomes under 50% of the area median income and below. So the easiest way to see this is just type into Google something like area median income Ventura County. That's what I did. And this is what I got. So you could see here, you get the percentages based on how many people in your family. You could see, okay, one person is deemed to be 50% of median or below if they make under $39,550. Gives you a little bit of insight into how that sort of verbiage would operate here. Covers up to 18 months of arrears rent and up to 12 months of rent going forward. Student loans, we're not really sure what the $4 billion reference was for the first time we saw it in the outline. This current summary does not include that $4 billion anymore. Instead, it just extends forbearance through April 1st. The congressmen and women mentioned this is not emergency, or this is not stimulus. This is just emergency relief. And that does mean that stimulus checks are not a part of this. Bernie Sanders says, "It astounds me how just a few months ago the Democratic House passed the HEROES bill, $3.4 trillion. What kind of negotiating is that? To basically go from 3.4 down to 908 billion. The state and local funding bill would provide $160 billion. The governors would be responsible for distributing 40% of the money, and the money would be allocated on a basis per state of 2/3 going towards lost revenue and 1/3 going towards, the basis of population. So that's how they're going to divide that out per state. And then once they have that pot of money, the governors are going to be responsible for distributing 40% of that to local governments. Then we have liability protections with worker and consumer protections. Basically, what we've been provided here is that the Attorney General can pursue bad actors if somebody's just filing a ton of claims. Gross negligence is required to actually win a COVID lawsuit. You'd have to prove that somebody was grossly negligent, just purposefully trying to not care, basically. No liability if employers try to conform to public health standards and guidance at the time. So you'll have to go back to the time of any kind of exposure and then determine, well, were they conforming to what the requirements were? Were there requirements to have masks in the stores or provide sanitizer, and did the business do that or not? That's just as an example. This would last from December, or start December 19th, and the protection would go until 1 year after the pandemic ends. 1099 contractors who were supported with PPE or any kind of funding during the pandemic would not be classified as employees, and so that's good for companies like Lyft and Uber. Additionally, we heard multiple senators and representatives call this a Christmas miracle, that this has to get done by Christmas. Senator Dick Durbin is in favor of doing both bills, but says at the very least we need to do the $748 billion deal, which again does not include stimulus checks. Steny Hoyer, the leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, says that we could potentially live without state and local government funding for now. Many do believe that there's no way Nancy Pelosi is going to agree to this kind of package without state and local government funding. Chuck Schumer says, we'll see what's put together, so we don't have a reaction from him yet. Next, Mitch McConnell said that we need targeted relief, quote, not an unfettered slush fund for non-COVID related needs that predate the pandemic. Now, we saw in this proposal, the bipartisan proposal, that you can't use these funds to bail out pension funds, but Mitch McConnell is now broadening this, saying, look, you could be using this for any kind of mess up in your previous spending. So I don't think Mitch McConnell thinks this language is going to be tight enough for his satisfaction. He does go on to say that Congress must together to reach a bipartisan agreement this week on coronavirus legislation to save the lives and livelihoods of the American people. We cannot go home without it. Then we hear that Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin spoke on the phone for a very arduous and grueling 22 minutes. Yes, they spoke about stimulus and the government funding bill. On stimulus, Nancy Pelosi, surprise, surprise, doubled down on Democrats' concerns over liability protections. This comes after the bipartisan group introduced new liability language, which Nancy Pelosi almost certainly reviewed prior to her talking to Steve Mnuchin. This sounds like the new bill today did not get us closer on liability protections or state and local funding with Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell. This is unfortunate. However, we do know that Senator John Thune has come out and has said it looks like we are trending in the right direction. And we have had a Republican representative out of Michigan apparently disaffiliate, or basically resign. Here it is. Paul Mitchell, Republican Party, has disaffiliated with the Republican Party, citing a lack of evidence of election fraud and frustration that there continues to be a pursuit over Donald Trump's legal claims. So just reporting the news, not here taking sides. But that's what we've got. So that is a complete summary. Make sure to get yourself 4 free stocks with Webull. Deposit $100. They will give you 4 free stocks worth up to $1,600. At minimum, you will get $21, which is a 21% return on your money at minimum. Check it out via the link down below next to the link for life insurance. And folks, we'll see you next time.